Hey everybody, some gadget guy here, somegadgetguy.com. Apologies for this sort of janky screencast. Windows Phone doesn't have a good HDMI out for me to move this to a better monitor, but there's a really cool app that I want to talk to you guys about today, and that is Nokia Refocus is finally in the App Store. We want to do a little bit of a hands-on here, adding to their dominance of all things photography on Windows Phone. Nokia Refocus is a really cool app which acts like a Lytro camera, and a Lytro camera is a camera which can make everything in focus. So if you take one picture, you can focus on anything in that picture after you take the photo. And Nokia has sort of lovingly paid homage to that functionality by doing the same thing in Refocus. And so Refocus takes a series of photos from as close to the lens as possible all the way till as far away from the lens as possible. And then it allows you to pick different objects to focus on after the fact. And so I've got a little scene set up here in the Some Gadget Guy laboratory. And I'm just gonna pull up the camera now. And so I've got my little Sphero guy there. I've got a Slinky sort of hiding behind it. Then I've got the Nokia wireless Bluetooth speaker there in the back. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take a picture of this. You tap anywhere on the screen. And you can see it scans through everything. It's gonna be a little hard to see, on this because I'm taking video of a camera taking photos, but you'll at least still get some sense of what's happening here. And so now you can see at the closest end, I position the Sphero as close as possible. So when I focus on that, that's in focus. But now when I tap on the screen later, I can focus on the Slinky. Or if I want, I can tap on the screen even farther away and focus on that speaker. Or what's really cool is that the camera app, the Refocus app, can also do a composite of every focal distance. And they call this the all-in focus, and that just kind of blows my mind. Everything in this shot is now in focus, and that's really stinking cool. Especially considering that the Lumia 1020, the phone that I'm demoing this app on, has a pretty shallow depth of field for a smartphone camera. And so you do need to hold the phone very steady when you take the shot, because the more you move around, or like say if you're taking a photo of like a traffic scene and cars are driving into and out of the shot, what we're actually looking at is a very quick sampling of a number of photos from close to far to arrive at this functionality. And so if things walk into and walk out of your scene, you'll see subtle changes in between the different shots when you go back to look at your composite later. All of these shots end up in a special album of just your refocus pictures. So when you save and when you share a refocus photo, what happens is a refocus piece of software gets uploaded to SkyDrive, and then a link is sent out to people who can then interact with the photo through that link. It doesn't show up as a regular JPEG, obviously, because a JPEG can't refocus the shot after the fact. Once you make something like a JPEG, that pie has been baked. But we can go into the album, and I think I've got a couple other shots that we can play with here too. So like with this flower scene, we can focus on the very closest. There we go. So I saved it as all in focus, but we can focus on the very closest flower right there. You can see everything else behind it gets nice and pleasantly blurred. I can tap even a little closer. This a bunch of flowers, that got a little softer in focus. Everything else is very pleasantly blurred. I can focus way out on this little bush, way in the distance. And now this, what was in the foreground before, which was in focus, is now out of focus and is very blurry and soft and nice. And this clump of flowers in the back is now what we're focused on. That's what's in focus. It's startlingly good. It's really clean and fun functionality to be able to pick after the fact, to just take one picture and then after the fact pick whatever it is that you want to focus on. And so here's an example of what happens when stuff moves around in your frame while you're taking a picture with refocus. Because it's taking a series of shots, the wind is kind of blowing in this setup. So you can see this leaf here in the foreground is going to move around a bit whenever I refocus throughout the shot. So I'm going to refocus just a touch behind it. And you can see it subtly shifted where that foreground leaf was. So if I go back, you can see it moves, and then it moves even a little bit more when I focus further out. So, and that's because it's taking a really hyper fast burst of photos at all different focus points, and then allowing you to, in software, move back and forth between those different focus setups. But the fact that it does it so quickly means that these types of subtle changes in position aren't going to be overly distracting, but you have to be aware that that's what's happening so that when you do run into a situation where you're trying to do an all-in focus, you get this weird sort of cropped, blurred edge on anything which might be, kind of anything that was moving around in the shot. The rest of the shot's looking fine, but this one leaf was blown around in the wind, and so if I do an all-in focus, it's kind of got an interrupted edge here on the sides. But if that's the only problem you run into when you're messing around with an app like this, and it's just so much fun to be able to go back and forth and pick your focus points after the fact. I want to focus on those red berries. That's soft out of focus. That's super out of focus. I want to focus on that main leaf in the foreground. That's now in focus. And you can just dance around the frame after the fact. It's really a liberating photography concept because we're so concerned with making sure that we get our subjects in focused the first time that now we've got this almost science fiction-like ability to go, zoom and enhance on that grid right there. Oh, let's bring this into focus right here. And that's just super cool. I love being able to play with this. So folks, the Refocus app is in the Windows Phone store for Nokia phones. I believe you have to be running the Amber software update, the GDDR3 update, to be able to take advantage of all of the cool features in this, but I would highly recommend going to check that out if you're rocking a 920 or a 1020, something with a really good camera, a really good shooter on it. And I think you're gonna have a lot of fun playing with this kind of refocus after the fact style photography. As always, folks, thanks for watching. I'm gonna catch you all on the next video, but first I'm gonna go back to playing with all of my super cool refocus shots here in my refocus gallery, and I think you all should do the same.